Fox News alert as we are watching a hearing that's underway on government transparency. The House Oversight Committee hearing reporters and media professionals explain how they believe the government agencies deliberately botch their formal requests for information.
I filed 8 FOIA lawsuits on behalf of the Times. Much of that litigation was driven not by actual disagreement about legal issues, but in response to unacceptable delay by agencies.
It is a violation of FOIA for the FBI to interpret Exemption 7A the way it has. Yet the FBI continues to be in routine and flagrant violation of the law.
Federal bureaucrats paid tax dollars to act on our behalf routinely break the law with impunity, as if treating public material as if it's confidential, secret information to be controlled by a chosen few. They withhold it from the public, its rightful owners, while sharing it with select partners.
The larger problem that we face, though, right now is that our role of objectively collecting and reporting the facts has been increasingly and aggressively blocked.
How about that? Joining me now, Mike Warren, staff writer for the Weekly Standard. Mike, good to have you here this morning.
Good morning, Martha.
You know, these are interesting and very forceful arguments. We have all seen these things get slow-walked time after time, and reporters do have a right to information that is on the books and is public, and often, basically, they just try to wear you down with delay.
Right, and it's not just reporters, it's watchdog groups, and it's actually really any American under the law who can file these things. We've got to be fair, though. This hadn't started in this administration. It's been going on for quite a while. You talk to any reporters who deal with FOIA requests. It's been on the uptick for about 20 years in terms of the slow walking or stalling or using these excuses. And you kind of can't blame them. There's a weird twisted logic in blocking this if you're a White House or an administration, because, you know, that's more scrutiny, that more people are looking at your communications and how you're making decisions, and, you know, you might actually have to be held accountable for what you're doing in government. And, you know, I guess if it weren't for this law, then we would never know anything. This is a real problem, and it's only been ramped up extremely by the Obama administration, and you know, it's good for Congress to actually be delving into it, but, you know, there's got to be more done.
So you say it's been ramped up under the Obama administration, which I think a lot of people believe, but is that a fact in your opinion?
Well, you could just look at the numbers and see how much more slowly these requests are being granted, or the number of redactions that are being added. There's one particular exception that journalists are citing. I believe it's called 8B, which essentially is that if a government document or had to do with decision-making on some kind of government policy, then that can be accepted from a FOIA request. And you talk to any journalist who deals with this stuff, they say that has just been abused over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Because it's easy to
just
a big problem. Slap that label on it on pretty much anything to say, oh, this matter has to do with decision-making, and therefore you can't know it. Is there any movement afoot in Congress? And by the way, as you point out, Congress is not subject to FOIA requests. Is there any move there to say that there has to be a reasonable limit? Like, you know, this can last from 6 to 12 months, but then they absolutely must give an answer.
Yeah, well, I think that's a big part of what this Jason Chaffetz led hearing is about, is sort of getting that out there and putting the pressure on, and maybe getting some better limitations on this. But, you know, I mean, this is something that's really dogged the administration, is the way they've treated the press in particular. You think about the way that the Justice Department has gone after some journalists, including one at this network.
That's right.
You think about the way also that the White House press really doesn't have any sources within the White House on this. The White House has really closed themselves off from reporters. It's really only controlled intentional leaks. I think this is a real problem for an administration that came in and said, we're going to be the most transparent here.
So true.
They've got to deal with this.
I mean, there used to be an acceptance of the fact that it was a responsibility to share information with the press. And, of course, there were always times that people didn't like doing it, but that relationship was an understood thing that was a responsibility on the part of the White House to do so. And that seems to have changed dramatically over these years and maybe over the last 20, as you say. Michael, thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thanks, Martha.
There was no reaction after a fatal